What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode number 74 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creator Series. Today I welcomed an LA native. She's a really incredible artist, singer, songwriter, rapper, Justis Chanell. She joined me today, and I've been in contact with Justis since I believe probably March or April. And I remember she dropped an EP. I think I kind of messed up the date in the episode, but I think she said May is when she officially dropped that EP. I remember hearing it and messaging her and being like, you know, this project's really cool. I love the vibes of it and everything. And I hit her up actually a few days before we recorded the episode to get her on the show, and she agreed. So I was happy to get to have her share some of her story today. She said she's been doing music for around 7 years now, ever since she's been done with school and everything. And she kind of talked about where she's at currently, kind of just taking it step back a little bit and kind of getting a fresh start on what's going to end up being her next either project or just group of songs that she's doing. We discussed the ongoing debate about singles or albums. Obviously, we're in an era where streaming is a big thing, and a lot of people are pushing, put out a lot of singles as an artist and just keep doing those every, month or so or every 2 months. But then there's also the side of it where, diehard music people, they really still love the albums. I discussed with her that, I still remember where I was for certain albums that I'm a huge fan of. I don't really remember songs that much, but, I can see it from all sides, because there's just a lot of different ways you could go about releasing your music these days. But I think that's the beauty of it. And, I enjoyed hearing her discuss kind of what she went through in the last year during COVID and everything, and how she kind of had to reinvent herself in a lot of ways. You've heard in some other episodes how a lot of live performers had to come up with different ways to make income, and her journey was no different. I'm glad to hear she's getting back into some live shows, though. I think she said this past weekend or the weekend before this episode, she did her first live show again, so it's good to hear things opening back up for her and everything over there. And I'm looking forward to, hopefully, when I go out in March, maybe meeting up, maybe doing a part 2 or collaborating on some music. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. And yeah, let's get right into it. All right, welcome everyone to episode number 74 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creator Series. Today we have an incredible artist out of LA. Justis Chanell is here. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for, agreeing on such short notice. I know I hit you up this weekend. It's only been a few days and everything, but, I'm glad to get you on here, and I'm, interested to hear more about you and your story. So basically, to start every episode, we have the guests give a little bit of background, how you got into music, how long you've been doing it, kind of just the basic information for those that might not be familiar with you.
Okay. So I got started, I'd say about 7 years ago, straight out of high school. I just had a friend who was a rapper, was getting started, so I used to hang out in the studio a little bit, and I think I just kind of fell in love with the process. But I've always been a writer. I've written poetry and done poetry competitions and stuff like that. Grew up in a very musical household, come from a very musical family. So, it happened very organic. And, when I finally fell into it, it just kind of blossomed from there.
That's super awesome. Now, do you say that you would prefer to write more for other artists, or are you really enjoying being like a solo artist now?
To be honest with you, I go back and forth. Sometimes I like to write for other people, and then sometimes I only want to write for myself. And that just, it's dependent on what I'm going through and, what my life is feeling like, because the more stuff going on with me, the more personal my writing is, and the harder it is for me to write for other people.
Yeah. Have you ever had a song where you end up writing it and it's you very much enjoy it yourself and you're like, man, I want to put this out, but then you have an artist end up using it? Has that ever happened before?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes I can love songs. I feel like all of my songs are they're my babies. You know, like
Yeah.
Kanye said, these are my babies. It's very true. So, but you know, part of being a good parent is realizing like sometimes someone else can do this song more justice than I can. You know, so it's kind of teetering back and forth between that, trying to figure out, is this for me, or is this something that someone else could possibly take to the next level?
Yeah, because I've heard that, especially from a lot of songwriters, is like they'll make a lot of songs and they just have a hard time figuring out where it's going to go, or like what is the best spot for it. So I imagine that's always like kind of an internal conflict, but it's something that I think everyone's faced with. So I'm also curious for you, is like, is there anything you do that's kind of like a pregame ritual before you record or before you write? Anything that like kind of helps you get you in that creative space?
I like to get inspired some kind of way. So like, I don't have something that I sit and do every time before I start writing. It's more just about finding inspiration, and that can come from anything. It can come from taking a walk. It can come from drinking a cup of tea. It can come from a commercial. It doesn't matter. Like, so to answer your question, no, I just tend to live my life, and the content comes from that.
Yeah. I think that's something that I myself have found in the last year especially, is just like, you got to give yourself time to, like you said, live life a little bit, because if you're constantly working, the inspiration's never going to come. Like, you're going to run out of ideas. So I think it's good to get away, kind of just set things to the side, and go do something that has nothing to do with music at all. And then you'll come back and you'll feel refreshed. You'll be like, wow, I can take what I just did, kind of take those experiences and put it into something new. And you end up coming out totally fresh and ready to go on something else that's even better than probably what you had before. So
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So for you, obviously, just from hearing your music, I'd say you have a lot of different styles that you probably draw from. So I'm curious to know, who are some of your favorite artists, either growing up or even still today? Like, who do you still listen to that has inspired your sound?
That's always a hard question for me, because
it's probably a lot.
I just love music, you know. But if I had to narrow it down, I'd definitely say Anita Baker. Man, I'm a Motown baby, so, you know, anything from the 60s, 70s, that soul funk era, you know, Parliament and Funkadelics, like all of that stuff. And then, you know, coming around over to hip hop, because I love hip hop so much. Heavy, just straight Tupac and NWA. So I'm on the West Coast, gotta represent. Yeah, like, honestly, anything that makes my foot tap and that inspires me, like, I work off of inspiration. So I can be inspired by it. Like, I used to listen to Likey Lee all the time. And she really, I think, turned my whole mind around what inspiration actually is, because I grew up listening to R&B, hip-hop, and, you know, rap and soul, funk. But once I started to get into, like, alternative music and rock, it really changed how I looked at music as a whole. So, like, I really draw inspiration from everywhere.
Yeah. It's cool. I think I've mentioned this in other episodes, that I think we're at a spot in music now where the genre is kind of being thrown away in a good way, because everyone's starting to kind of blend different things together and just take certain styles from each genre and kind of make their own new thing. So it's like, I think that's a good thing, that a lot of people came up on a lot of different music and they're just kind of trying new things and being innovative now. And the genre is not really thought of like it used to be. You know what I mean? I don't know if you kind of get like that same feel just from where we're at in music, but
oh yeah, definitely. I get asked all the time, like, what is your genre? And I'm like, I don't know. It's music. Just listen to it. If you like it, you like it. You know, if you don't, then move on to the next thing. But
I think the only genres now, it's like, is it good or bad? You know what I mean? Like, that's how they're gonna judge it at the end of the day. Is like, do they like it? Do they not like it? That's basically it. I think people overcomplicate that a lot of the times, and they just, I don't know, they just try to label everything. But
Yeah,
You know?
all these subgenres.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, interesting stuff. So, out of all those artists, or maybe someone else, is there anyone that's like a dream collaboration of yours, like someone you'd want to do a song or like a project with eventually?
Um, Andre 3000.
Mm. That'd be a tough one to get.
Yeah, it'd be super tough.
But,
you know, it's super tough, but I can dream.
yeah.
Yeah, Andre 3000. I go back and forth between Lauryn Hill, because people tell me that I always get that I sound like a mixture of Lauryn Hill, Erykah Badu, and Jill Scott. I forgot to mention Jill Scott. She's like amazing to me. But yeah, I don't really want to collaborate with people that I sound too much like, or that I remind people of, because I don't ever want to take that from them. You know what I mean?
You kind of just want to stand on your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel it. So, out of people that you think, or people that you've already worked with, I guess, like it could be producers, engineers, anyone, is there anyone that's like, you just have a really good chemistry with, you really enjoy working with them?
As far as, what did you say, like producers?
Yeah, it could be producer, engineer, another singer, anybody that you've already collaborated with, that you enjoy working with a lot.
It's a good question. Most everybody that I've collaborated with, actually, I have really good chemistry. I don't do a lot of collaborations, and that's because I'm very sensitive to like vibes and the energy that's in the room or in the relationship when creating the music, you know, because that directly affects how the music comes out. So I'm very particular. I'm very selective about who I hop on tracks with. So I would say all the people that I have collaborated with, like, it's exactly that. I felt good about it. It was a good, you know, rapport happening between us, or we already had a relationship. So, yeah.
Are you someone that prefers to work in person with people all the time, or can you collab through like emails and things like that, or does it not really matter to you? Because I know you said about the energy, and to me, I think the best way to get that chemistry and energy is to do it in person. But obviously, we're in an era where, you know, a lot of people are just emailing or texting things back and forth. So, is there like a preference for you, or not really?
Yeah, I always prefer to work in person. Yeah, there's just things that you can do in person that you can't translate that over email or text or whatever, you know, but in person is my preference. I like to feel the music. I like to make changes together. I like us to truly collaborate on stuff.
Yeah. It's definitely easier to get things done and really just get it done in real time, as opposed to waiting weeks on end, just sending emails back and forth. Like, I'm in an instance right now where I'm trying to build a beat for a guy from scratch, and he's all the way in Houston, and we're having to just go back and forth, and it's already taken about a month just to do it.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking the whole time, I'm like, if I was in person with him, I feel like we could have had this done by now. But it's just one of those things where, you know, you kind of just got to bite the bullet and do what you got to do from far away. But I definitely agree with that. I think that there's just something about that human energy, you know, face to face, that you can just get things done in a timely manner. And I think the result is always better. You know what I mean? Like when it comes out, it's always, the song or the project is always like a better result, and people probably enjoy it more too. So
yeah, I agree. That's why it's my preference, you know, because it's all about the final product for me. The music is coming out good, and I'm happy.
So out in LA right now, obviously LA has always been like a huge music scene, entertainment scene. There's a bunch of new artists coming out all the time. For you, how do you think you've been able to kind of find your footing still in LA, trying to be an upcoming artist, you think?
Just networking. It's all about networking over here. It's all about who you know. And I think that's very reflective of the industry in itself. I mean, obviously we all value talent, but as I'm finding these days, talent is really the least of everybody's worries. It's all about who you know and your clout status. So I'm a hermit. I like to stay in the house, and I don't like, I can't be friends with someone just so I can get somewhere. It's just not in my nature.
Mm-hmm.
But I just let the music speak for itself. I continue to create. I continue to meet people that way. And, that's really it. I just do what I do best. And I think for the most part, I'm a big believer in, like, things that are supposed to happen will happen. And the more you look for stuff, the less it'll find you. So try to let things just happen organically.
Yeah, I love that, because, like, I feel the same way especially about the relationships thing. It's like, if you try to force it, it's definitely not going to work out the way you think it's going to work out ever. So it's like, it really has to be both people buying into the same ideal to get that good result. And, I think that goes for pretty much any working relationship, no matter what you're doing, but especially in music, because you'll be able to tell, like I said before, with being in person and creating something in person, it's like, they'll know, the listener will know, when they hear the final product, what kind of was going on behind the scenes, even if they didn't even have any idea what was happening. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Yeah.
It's all in the vibes. It's all in the vibes.
Exactly. So I know you put out an EP, I think in March, maybe, or February. I forget when that was.
I think it was in...
Might have been April, even. May?
It was May.
Oh, see, I was like, I knew it was like spring, and I'm like, I'm thinking March, April. Okay, so
you were
May.
close.
Yeah, so obviously you put out that EP. We're in like a weird spot right now with streaming and things like that, and a lot of people are like, people should be putting out singles, or people should not do projects anymore, blah, 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 blah. So for you, like, what would you prefer at the end of the day? Are you more, put out singles, put out projects? Do you not really think about something like that? Like, how have you been approaching that?
Yeah, I always think about it, just because, that is becoming the norm. Mm-hmm. Just put out singles until something pops, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'm an old school music listener. I like to listen to projects because you learn more about the artist, and you really get a better understanding about where they are in that moment of time. Mm-hmm. So I like to release projects because it's a time capsule for me. This last one, Sunset Songs, I released that. I wasn't planning on releasing that at all, to be honest with you. That was a collection of singles that I threw together and released as a project, just because I didn't want to keep doing promote, release, release,
mm-hmm.
Over and over. It's a lot. And, it extends maybe the life of the individual songs, but I'm just a fan of listening to projects, and I stick by that,
mm-hmm.
So that's my thinking behind it.
Yeah. I feel like there's just such a distinct difference, like what you just said, because I feel the same way. It's like, I have always been an albums person, because, like, if I think back on, like, my childhood, I remember albums. I don't remember when songs came out most of the time. I usually remember when an album came out, like, where I was, if I was in school, like, where I was at that point in life, and you kind of just remember that through that. And like you said, it's like the artist tells their story through the album, and you can just sit and hear all these different moments in the story. So, like, one song is cool, but then it's on to the next thing, and you kind of just forget about it. But as far as, like, the era we're in, it's like, the way streaming works is totally different. And from, like, a marketing standpoint and the way people approach it and tell artists, like, hey, you should be doing singles, from that standpoint, yeah, it totally makes sense. Like, I see why people say that. And it's funny because I was in, like, a Clubhouse room a few weeks ago, and someone came in that was, I think he was like a marketer, like a social media marketer and stuff, and he was talking about that. And he was like, the album's dead, blah, 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 blah. And, like, all the music people were just, like, getting pissed at him. I wasn't on stage, but I didn't, like, say anything. But I was thinking, like, from his perspective, that is right, though, because what he said, he's approaching it from that standpoint. Everybody else is approaching it as a music fan, as a creative, like, I love albums. How could you say an album is dead? So it's really just, like, perspective, and obviously things are going to keep changing. You know, who knows what we'll have 20 years from now? We could be in a totally different spot again.
Yeah.
But it's always like it's always like something I'm curious about to kind of just hear what people have to say about it as it continues to be a thing. So
Yeah,
kind of interesting.
definitely. Yeah, you know, this last project was intentional. I made that decision based off of just wanting to get music out. Because, like I said, that was a collection of singles. That was all those songs were going to come out over the span of like eight or 9 months.
Yeah.
And instead of doing that, I was like, man, I just want to throw them out because I just feel that way. Yeah, it's horrible for the market that we're in now, right? Because people don't have that attention span anymore. People barely want to listen to 2.5 minute songs. Once it goes over 2 minutes, they're like, all right, on to the next.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just a big fan of. I'm a true hip hop fan, so I'm a fan of the story, and I think the story is way more important than the numbers.
Well, I'll tell you what, I enjoyed the EP, so thanks for putting that out, for real.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, that was nice. So, in the last year or so, you know, year and a half, we've all dealt with a lot of different things, pandemic, you know, social issues, all kinds of different stuff. For you, has there been any type of, like, a hurdle that you've had to get over to kind of keep moving forward? Anything that was maybe a setback, or maybe something you learned in the last year that you didn't know before?
I would probably say being okay with trying something new, trying something different. You know, as far as like work and just our social lives, you know, because I feel like the whole world kind of flipped upside down for everybody at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the music industry were trying to figure out, like, okay, so how are we gonna get our bag now? Because I was heavy performing and, you know, just outside doing stuff. So with that being taken away, I had to figure out other ways, and I really had to get outside of the box. And I think I was very afraid to do that prior to everything hitting the fan. But after, you know, going through the tribulations, just like everyone else, I kind of found a way to be okay.
Now, have you gotten back to any live performing recently that things have kind of been lifting a little bit? I'm not sure like how much is lifted out there, but have you gotten back to some of the shows?
I had like one small show actually this past weekend. And that was cool, but you know, it felt good to be back on stage, but at the same time, it's like, man, I really have to get focused again. You know, because like we're so worried about other stuff now. Like I was worried about the mic and like sharing mics with people, and we didn't have to worry about all that. Obviously, we worried about it a little bit, but like not as much as now, you know. Yeah. So it's just small stuff like that. That kind of, it's not bad. It's just different. Yeah. It's just an adjustment. So I'm looking to get back into performing full swing, but I'm not in a rush to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of, I think even if you wanted to kind of rush, it's like a lot of this stuff is out of people's control. So it's kind of just you have to wait and just see what happens, because things just keep changing every day, it seems like. So I think it's just one of those things you got to wait it out and just stay patient and see what happens. But all very interesting stuff, especially just to be living in it, like to see all this happening in real time. It's like,
it's crazy.
We have no idea where it's going to go, but
yeah, it's absolutely insane.
So for you and your music, obviously you have a handful of songs out. You probably got a lot more coming. What do you think, you know, when someone hears a song of yours, what do you think you would want the lasting impact of that song to be? Like when someone hears a Justis Chanell record, what do you think you want them to take away from that?
I would probably say my passion. My passion and my dedication to the music. because I don't make music for anybody but myself, to be completely honest with you. I never want to tell people that I'm making music for them, because that's not true. I'm an artist, and first and foremost, I'm a writer. So I'm writing from my personal experience and from my life. So it's very personal, and I think that comes through in my music, as it should. So yeah, I want people to understand, like, this is passion. This is what passion sounds like. This isn't a gimmick. This isn't for money. This isn't for any of that. It's just life.
Now, I don't know if you can reveal anything that you have coming up, maybe before the end of the year, in the coming months. Do you have any music or maybe some projects we could be looking forward to? Anything you can reveal on the show today?
To be honest with you, I just got back in the studio, started recording more. So, right now, no, I don't have anything really set up to be released. I'm more just trying to figure out what I want people to hear right now. Figure out what I want to hear. Figure out what people want to hear. And, once I figure that out, then I'll have some music on the way. But right now, I'm not really worried about releasing. I think there's just a lot going on in the world. Yeah. I'm not too,
Yeah. And it's like we said, too, it's like you kind of got to get back in the swing of things, you know what I mean? It's like a lot of people had different experiences, so I think it's good. I think it's almost better to kind of just sit back and kind of start fresh and just take your time with whatever's next. And it's going to come out great, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely trying to approach it with a fresh set of eyes, a fresh mind, and an open attitude, because, I'm not trying to keep that same energy that we had, from 2020 and even the beginning of this year. I'm more, trying to look forward to the future and positive thoughts, positive feelings.
Yeah. Well, I love that, and, I'm looking forward to that whenever that does come out. So take your time on it, though, for real.
Will do.
It'll be great. So if you could go back 10 years ago, maybe give yourself a piece of advice, maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you would do?
10 years. I would tell myself to be patient, because I am a very impatient person when it comes to things that I want for myself and even for the people around me. So I would definitely tell my 10 years ago, my 15-year-old self, to be patient and to understand why things happen the way that they do. Not that a 15-year-old would even understand that, but I think that would be my advice, just to slow down. Slow down, be patient.
So if we flip it then and we say 10 years from now, where do you think you envision yourself in your life and your career?
Definitely more established. I think I'm at a point right now in my career where, things are starting to click a bit more. More opportunities, all that type of stuff is happening. So in 10 years, I definitely see myself more established. And I always tell people, I don't know how long I'll be making music for. I don't think I'm one of those artists that's going to be making music into my 50s. It's just not something I see happening. So, whenever I decide to put it down and move on to the next venture, then that's what that'll be. But, more established in whatever industry I think I want to be in.
Do you have any final words of wisdom today for the listeners?
Final words of wisdom. Am I smart? Let's see. Be yourself. Super generic, but oh so true. Please be yourself. We live in a time right now where, everybody wants to be that person or this person or whatever person. If you be yourself, you'd be amazed at how your life will turn out. So that's my advice.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest keys to success that a lot of people overlook, is just being genuine and, like you just said, just be yourself. Because if you're trying to be someone else, it's just not going to work out. Eventually, they're going to see
other people go out of style.
Yeah, exactly. And people are going to see through it too. So they'll know
Facts.
eventually. Well, Justis, that's all I have for you today. Like I said, I appreciate you joining me on short notice. I'm wishing you all the best of luck, all the music you got coming soon. Good luck on the rest of the live performances you got coming up probably in the next, few months and whatnot. And, I can tell that you're very passionate about what you do, and I just appreciate you giving some of your story today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate you giving me the time, the platform.
Thanks, guys, for listening today. That was episode 74. We'll be back this time next week. As always, hit the support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send any funds. And feel free to leave us that 5-star rating if you enjoyed today's episode. So we'll see you then. Thanks, guys.